Hello and good evening, friends. Hello to everyone who's gonna watch the replay after we do our live. Today we're coming at you live from day 3 of our 12 Days of Coaching 2018 Instagram series. Today's coach was Ilona Pamplona, is Ilona Pamplona, because she's still very much in coaching mode and will be in coaching mode here as we get into this conversation. So, hello, Anabella, partner in crime, sending you so much love. Let's bring... I'm really excited for today's conversation. It's gonna be a good one. All right, here we are.
I can hear you now. Awesome.
Sometimes it takes a couple seconds, and then sometimes it like clicks right on.
Yeah, all good.
Hello, Ilona. How are you?
I'm very well. How are you, Aleandra?
I'm so great. I was, of course, saying hi to anybody who's watching the replay, who's catching us later on. We're really excited about anybody that's going to join us live today, because this is going to be a really great interactive session. So
yes,
let's have a little bit of chit chat while we let others come in and join. How are you feeling today after your day of coaching?
I feel inspired. I feel, very, inspired is a big word, because as you guys saw today on the story and in the post, there are 3 very specific dimensions to self-compassion. And in the assessment that I put up on Insta stories, I didn't expect for people to, really be so connected to the shared human experience and like not just connect with others, but also this idea that you're not alone in the experience. You're not the only person going through that. So that was a great revelation for me.
Yeah.
Because there are so many studies about how, as a humanity, loneliness is an epidemic, but this is like people know to reach out, and that's a big deal.
Yeah.
And then the other thing is, I think the last time I checked, people were 50-50 on the over-identification and mindfulness. And I think that also kind of ties into this rise in mindfulness. So I was pretty excited about it. But the self-judgment, y'all are pretty self-judgy.
Tell us more about that. What did you find?
So I think almost a little over 70%, last time I checked, of folks identified with, judging themselves more than, kind of giving themselves a break when something goes wrong or when the going gets tough. And, that's kind of the beginning of the spiral of, a whole other series of behaviors that keep us in negativity bias. And just in this, whether you want to be more scientific about it, like negativity bias, or if you want to be energetic about it, like really low vibes. It's kind of like the gateway emotion, it seems, to being caught up in lower vibrational frequencies.
Yeah. So as we get into the topic of self-compassion, like if you were to break down this idea of self-compassion in very simple terms,
okay,
how do you describe it?
So compassion means to suffer with. So when people are compassionate with someone else, they're like, wow, you're going through something, and I'm going to sit here and suffer with you. And it's not because I'm going to be in pain, but like, I want to be with you in the suffering. But the self-compassion is, how many times are we suffering? And we actually sit with our own suffering, and we give ourselves a chance to deal with what's coming up. We usually go into self-attack, or we deflect, or we keep ourselves busy, or we do things that keep us from facing ourselves and really sitting with that which makes us suffer.
Yeah.
And which, people don't like that because it is uncomfortable, but it is in that experience of sitting with yourself and being like, why do I feel this way? Why does this trigger me? Why can't I seem to break this pattern? It's when we sit with ourselves that we create awareness, that creates growth, that creates amazing opportunities. And, I think that's why people look for coaches or counselors or whatever it is, because they can't sit with themselves to see what's happening.
So self-compassion it's kind of like you would sit with a really good friend and try to understand where she's, what she's feeling, what she's going through. But it's self-compassion is really learning the tools to be able to do that with yourself, the most
Yeah.
important person in your life.
Well, it's treating yourself like your own best friend.
Yes.
In difficult times.
Yes. It's beautiful. I love it. And they've got a lot of traction today in terms of the comments. I want to say hi to Joanna. Hi to Jess. Hi, ladies.
Hello, everybody.
So let's get right into it, because I think, first of all, there was a lot of engagement today in your post, and also in your Insta stories were absolutely amazing. Like, what a great self-assessment tool. Hola. And whoever hasn't gone to Ilona's Insta story yet, go, because it's this very quick, but very, it gives you the opportunity to go deep with this self-assessment, to really like answer like the really, love you too.
Love you too.
To really ask yourself some really pivotal questions that are probably going to shift things in there. And again, it's those questions that leave you thinking. Mm-hmm. And then not only are there questions, but then there's actual tools afterwards and great video coaching that you should take advantage of. So I just want to go through, I'm going to do a shout out to some of the amazing people that commented today. Yes. We have DGR Wear, we have Stardust Fitness, who we absolutely love and support fully. Joe, we love you. We have Light Observations. We have Michelle Marie Howell, Sammy Stardust, Denise, Amercy, who I know is Amy, Tony Lee Hamilton. Again, just some of the amazing people that went in there and interacted with Ilona today. So we're gonna do a couple things. Hey Dagmar, oh my God, there's so much love in this room. So we're gonna do a couple of things today. Mm-hmm. We are going, and my mom. Oh my God, it's a party.
Oh, party in the house.
Hi Mirta. Okay, so let's get right into it. Now that we have a bit of a better crew, I want you to highlight for us again, what are the things that you found from the responses that you got today that really caught your attention? And how can you take us through, if that's stuff that we're feeling as well, how can we begin to be more aware of it?
So self-compassion, like I said before, it's comprised of 3 dimensions, 2 concepts that are polarized, right? So you've got self-kindness over self-judgment, you've got shared humanity over isolation, and you've got mindfulness over versus over-identification. And so what I was surprised is people are reaching out. So shared humanity is on the up. I was surprised that people are kind of in half and half between mindfulness and over-identification, which is a good thing, because that means that there's a rise in mindfulness instead of like being like so attached to the outcome or how you feel or a problem, rather than finding solutions and kind of looking at the big picture. And then the biggest surprise was the idea that people are so judgmental with themselves. Like, instead of saying, whoa, I am not this one fault or this one situation or this feeling right now doesn't completely represent me. People aren't giving themselves a break. They're really kind of holding on to them being the cause or root of an issue. And so, how do we get through this? You kind of say some steps that you can take to get through this. It's in the root of self-compassion, right? To sit with yourself and, kind of deal with that suffering, right? Sit with yourself as if you're your best friend, and talk to yourself as if you're your best friend, and really think about the situation. What is going on? Why is this happening to me? How can I see this? One of my favorite questions to ask clients is, how can you see this in a different way? Because we're so attached to saying, I suck, I am a jerk, blah, blah, blah. Yes, the vicious cycle. How do you break it? So if you saw the story, I love the science of neuroplasticity. We're so conditioned. So first of all, we have negative bias. It is typical for us to default to the negative thought rather than the kinder thought. But from a neuroplasticity perspective, in order to undo negative thinking, one thing you could do is name it to tame it. So you speak it out loud, whether it's to yourself, to a friend, to a counselor. Just speaking the situation, being like, this happened and I really don't like it. And saying this to someone who you have conditional regard, who has like really unconditional kindness to you, allows, actually, it's scientifically said to kind of already calm you down.
Yeah.
Okay. And that's why we call friends when we're having a crappy day. Pardon my language. I mean,
Yeah.
I'm not going, but like when we're having a crappy day, what do? Like, you call your friend, you be like, listen, friend, I had a crappy
Yeah.
day. Do you have a moment?
It's
That
science.
just doing that
You need it.
already
Yeah.
calms you down.
Yeah.
If you don't have, like, if you're in the middle of work and you don't have a friend that you can call on, you know, one thing that I like to do is like you breathe it out, like breath.
Mm-hmm.
When we are stressed, when we're being judgmental, when we're in attack mode, whether it's to ourselves or someone's attacking us, our bodies go into sympathetic nervous system mode, which is your
Mm-hmm.
body goes, I'm being attacked mortally, and your systems start to shut down, including
Mm-hmm.
your breath becomes more shallow.
Yeah.
Just breathing allows your
Yeah.
brain to get the oxygen it needs to say, can I see this in a different way, right? Because if you're
Yeah.
in sympathetic nervous system, your brain doesn't have enough oxygen to process it,
Yeah.
right?
It triggers a safety issue, like a very
Yes.
core safety versus, you know, I'm in peril issue. Yeah,
Mm-hmm.
for sure.
Mm-hmm.
I want to touch quickly before we lose the comment because they flip
Yeah.
out of sight. When Joanna says the vicious circle, how to break it, which is what you're discussing, and
Yeah.
I love the tips you're giving. Anything else that you want to elaborate on?
Yes. So if you notice a vicious circle, like if you notice yourself talking negatively to yourself, so judging yourself,
Mm-hmm.
yeah, flight or fight, exactly. So if you're in the flight or fight and you're attacking yourself with thoughts and words, in the story I said, I want you to stop, I want you to write down the self-judgment that's coming up, and I want you to write kinder things that you can say to yourself, because
Mm-hmm.
from an energetic perspective, you need 2 positive thoughts to undo the impact of a negative thought. And from neuroplasticity, the more you think an opposite thought or a more kind thought, your brain starts defaulting to the kinder thought. But you have to make a habit of creating a pathway to kinder thoughts, right? So if you're not used to saying nice things to you, when you force yourself in the beginning, your brain goes, hey, this is a little bit weird. But as you make that a habit, your brain goes, oh yeah, I like this thought. I like the way you feel when we go through this neural pathway or this railroad in your brain.
Mm-hmm.
And you'll start defaulting that way rather than the negative self-talk.
Yeah. Yeah. I want to reflect on a couple of the things, because in preparation for our chat together, I asked a couple of questions on Instagram. And these are 3 questions that came up for me as I was reading through your caption today and your Insta stories. This is how sort of I boiled them down. So I asked, do you ever beat yourself up for things that happened in the past? I loved that reflection. And yes, 67% said yes, 33% said no. Clearly, this is something that we all experience. Do you ever find yourself in negative thought loops that are difficult to come out of? So far, 100% have said yes. I mean, this is something that can happen, whether it's minor things, tougher things. As Joanna mentioned, that negative cycle, and she has another question. What if you're seeing that negative cycle behavior in someone close? Let's table that and get to that one, because that's a really good one.
That's a good one.
And then the last question I asked, do you tend to criticize and demand too much of yourself? This one is 50-50, which I find interesting. This is one that really like all 3 of these I can definitely relate to. And that last one is one that is very tied to perfectionism for me, which is a behavior that I'm really working to break through, because I can see how it's been limiting me in the past from achieving the things that I know I'm capable of, you know, intrinsically, but there's something that stops me, and it's typically that fear of perfectionism. So I want to address Joanna's question, and then what we're going to do is a little bit of a mini coaching demo where Ilona is going to coach me just very briefly on this perfectionism challenge that I experienced, just so that you guys can see what the dynamic is when you're working with a coach and what kind of questions you should expect. So let's get into Joanna's. Like, what happens when you see that vicious cycle in someone else?
That's really, it's interesting, the idea of when you see it in someone else, right? Because I think one thing that we as coaches learn is that when you call someone out on, when you tell someone, hey, you're doing this, people are going to automatically go into defense mode. Like, I don't know what you're talking about. No, I don't do that. So I think it's good to observe it. And I think if you explore it with curiosity, you can you can allow the person to kind of see what's happening. But I think if you see a vicious cycle in someone and you tell them, hey, you're really negative right now, or you're not doing well right now, they're not going to take well to it. If you begin to observe a pattern, and if you can form questions that they can start reflecting on, they might find themselves opening up to you and being like, you asked a really great question and you made me think about it. But I think you definitely have to be careful with pointing things out to people, especially when it's really toxic behavior.
Yeah.
And obviously if it's to a point where someone needs some intervention, then that's a different thing. But if it's a vicious cycle, like, they're a negative Nancy, you might want to be like, you might want to say like, oh, have you ever thought of seeing this a different way?
Yeah.
Have you ever,
Yes.
I wonder if it's this or that, giving them questions to have them really explore what's coming up for them, especially if it's a cycle.
Yes. And making them feel empowered for their own awareness. And awareness is a word that we use a lot. And it really basically means like actually like becoming aware of what you're thinking, like being very present with whatever's coming up, and being willing to, like Ilona was saying in the beginning, just sit with that. Like awareness is sitting with it and sort of accepting what's coming up for you. And that's something that we need to practice.
No problem.
So when you can begin to see those questions of awareness with someone else, like have you ever thought about seeing it this way? Or, empowering them to make their own choices and not feel like they're being attacked, like you said, because that could definitely be something very triggering for someone else, because it can completely come out of the blue.
Questions allow people the space to think about it, rather than being like, you're really cranky, you need a nap. People people don't react well to broad, bold statements, especially when it's them not being well.
Totally. So before we get into this mini coaching demo, any other questions that anybody has out there, feel free to plug them in.
And I saw Maya pop in before, so Maya, you're still on. Hey, girl.
Take advantage of the fact that we've got Ilona live and in person. All right, well, we'll let the questions come through. We'll definitely get to all of them. So let's just do a quick just a couple of good coaching questions that can shift me out of a perfectionism funk here.
All right.
Lead the way, coach.
So the first thing, thanks for bringing this up. And I'm curious to know, what does perfectionism mean to you?
Perfectionism. Oh, I love that question, Jess. We'll get to that.
Yeah.
Perfectionism for me means doing everything the best I can. Knowing that I'm capable of achieving things in a really, that I'm capable of a lot, and that I can, if I don't do things to the best of my ability, then sometimes I'd rather not even do them, because I'm afraid that I won't be perceived as like I'm doing enough. So perfectionism is kind of a mark of I'm doing things well.
So what I'm hearing is that it's a very all or nothing mindset. Yeah. And so when you're embarking in a new project, for example, because I'm assuming perfectionism comes in like projects and works. How does having such an extreme view give you room to learn and grow?
No, I mean, it tends to be limiting, because I'm not giving myself the chance to try things out. I'm very hard on myself. I judge my performance, and then I can, if I don't allow things to just sort of happen organically and then learn from it, I could get stuck in that negative thought pattern after the fact of, I should have done this, I could have done that, I should have done that better. And it just, I know that it doesn't allow me to fully express myself.
Perfectionism doesn't allow you to fully express yourself. You just said those words. How does that feel?
No, it definitely gives me it's scary because
Mm-hmm.
self-expression for me is so important.
Mm-hmm.
And to think that there's this self-imposed block that's preventing me from creating and connecting and doing all the amazing things that I aspire to do is scary, and it kind of sucks. I'm
Yeah,
like, ugh, you know?
I can feel it. I can feel
I don't
it.
like it.
I can feel like you kind of, you know, you could see your posture
Yeah.
going in, you can see your face
Yeah.
going in. So, you know, something really hit me in what you said is that it's a self-imposed block. So it sounds like you're aware that you're the only one holding you to this standard?
Yes. Yeah, because I thankfully in my journey I've gotten to the place where I do know that that's the case. Like I know that the feedback I get from the external world is very different from the feedback I give myself. I am not practicing self-compassion in those moments, because if I was, then I would be willing to allow myself to be more flawed so that I could create more freely and breathe and show up, because my perfectionism, you know, keeps me from showing up fully and letting people connect with me in a deeper way, because I'm like wearing a mask all the time, and that's not reality.
Yeah. You said that it almost sounded like you used the word flawed. Like when you said accepting this concept of flawed was quite the opposite of perfectionism. You're like, you were able to breathe, you were expansive.
Yeah.
So, and what one thing can you do, can you implement to remove a block of perfectionism in your life? I'm doing this because this is what I'm imagining. Mariana picking a block from the perfectionist wall, because I'm sure there are a lot of...
Yeah. What's one thing I could do? I mean, I could pick any from the long list of things that I sort of want to do, and just, you know, make a bolder, more courageous decision to try at least a little one, like, and just do it. Almost like close my eyes and put it out there, because I really believe in creating momentum, and I believe in knowing that's the kind of energy that is going to move us forward and allow us to, you know, be brave enough to tackle the next thing. And so, yeah, that's absolutely what I can do.
Okay. So it sounds like, you know, just taking the first step blindly, or, you know, boldly, courageously. Are there any flaws that can actually come to you as strengths to removing these blocks?
Yeah, I mean, just the idea of being my goofy, sort of very just being goofy, being gentle. You know, for me, perfectionism has a hard edge. Like, it's supposed to convey, you know, this strength and this facade of I got this. And then
yes, I see it.
Yeah. you see how my face totally changes. And then there's that goofy, light, gentle side that I also possess, that's very, you know, flowy and graceful, that is actually can be a fantastic asset, which you know, that perfectionist side of me could see as a flaw, because it's like, no, don't behave that way. But then that's what's going to actually, you know, if we're talking from, let's say, a business perspective, as a person that's out, like, you know, connecting with people want to connect with someone that's real, and that's the real side of me. So that's what's going to allow me to create deeper, more meaningful connections from business and a personal standpoint.
To me, it sounds like your flaws make you human.
Yeah.
And to be human is not to be perfect, but to be real.
Yeah.
and connected.
Yeah.
That's what I'm hearing from your response. You're really connecting to your humanity, rather than, because perfectionism, your stance seemed very blocked. Your sense of perfectionism even created that block.
Yeah.
So I could see how your sense of your perceived flaws actually softens you to be free and flowing.
Yeah, and more receptive and more and it's just going to be more fun. I know
Yeah.
it. I know it as I work through my, again, my perfectionist tendencies and work through, I can see myself having more fun and just blossoming into a much fuller, more joyful version of like the truer version of who I am without the need to portray a certain, oh, you know, this is who I have to be because I have to know that I've got this. So
Yeah. So what I'm hearing, because, you know, I love leaving my clients with mantras is, so if we're going to rewrite your perfectionist
yeah,
mindset, I'm going to use your words just to reflect back your words, and a possible mantra is, but by being flawed, I am safe, I am free, I am fun.
yeah, I love that. By being flawed, I am safe, I am free, I am fun. I love that.
Because you don't sound like you feel safe in the business environment if you're flawed, but you are.
No,
You don't sound like you're having fun.
no.
And you also don't sound like you're free to do the things you're supposed to do.
No, I love that.
How does that fall with you?
Fun. That falls good and it feels good. Like I can feel like, yeah, it's a very different energy, which is part of that, you know, to reflect back on what you were saying in the beginning, this ability to sit with yourself, to become aware. It's like, to really get in touch with how your body feels. And it's like, to me, that sense of perfectionism, even talking about it, is very constricted. It's very, you know, it's a very tight feeling in my body. And then when I talk about being open and allowing myself to be flawed, allowing myself to have fun, to be free, to feel safe in that space, I can, you know, it's just, you can see it in my face. So
you can feel it all over your body. Yeah. Your energy is completely different.
Totally. That was good. Thank you for that.
My pleasure. Hopefully everyone, you know, they talk about in certain coaching circles that, you know, while I coached you, anyone who's watching who deals with this also borrows the benefit of this experience and is able to also get some relief or some resolution or the beginning of resolution from, or awareness. Yeah. All the words. Yeah. So hopefully there's some folks on the feed who can get some of those borrowed benefits of knowing that being flawed is really safe.
Yeah. Let's bring back being flawed. Let's make it a thing. And I also wanted to mention, thank you, Jess, and thank you, Joanna, for that beautiful note. I also wanted to mention that this was a tiny mini like taste of what a coaching experience is, and obviously coaching happens in an extremely safe space between you and your coach. It's one of the most beautiful like relationships that you can yes, Tony, that you can have. And so we wanted to do this because it's a great example of what that back and forth is. And it's really, the coach then guides their coachee, their client, as a partner into them sort of opening up to what's already within them. The coach doesn't tell you what to do. The coach doesn't give you advice. The coach merely is there to allow you to more freely express, organize your thoughts, and prompt you with the key questions that are going to open up all those little doors, windows, and little, you know, light bulbs inside that are going to allow you to, you know, reach that moment where you're going to be like, oh yeah, I hadn't thought about it that way, or and then the beautiful thing, and again, Ilona and I have been on both sides of the coaching table, is after you've been coached and you go through your 1 hour, 2 hour session, whatever you're having with your coach, 30 minutes, like coaching can happen in you know, in a quicker time frame as well, depending on the intention. But after you leave that, in the space between the sessions, there's so much growth that happens because those questions continue to sit and those questions continue to prompt you to think about things differently, almost like consciously and subconsciously. And then you come back to the next session with new things to uncover and discover. So it's pretty awesome. It's pretty awesome. Yeah. Anything you want to add?
Yeah. So what you were saying kind of brings me back to Jess's question of why I wanted to be, what prompted me to be a self-compassion coach, is because as I was trying to figure out, you know, a title for myself, because I think all of us in coaching are trying to figure out what is our target, like what do we want to do with our clients? Because I think also people think of the idea of coaches being like this catch-all for anyone who gives advice. First of all, we don't give advice. We sit with you. We sit and we ask you questions. We listen to you and we reflect back. We're a mirror. Kind of like when I said something to you and you're like, oh yeah, I did say that, didn't I?
Yeah.
We're a mirror. We ask questions and we listen. And for me, that kind of reminded me of the definition of compassion. So sorry, I got paused because I had a notification. But this idea of being, you know, sitting with someone and suffering with them, but then coaching them to the light of not having to suffer as much anymore.
Yeah.
And I noticed that most of my clients were not suffering in public. They were suffering with themselves and about themselves. They were inflicting themselves more than they would other people. And so that's why self-compassion coaching specifically for me was really important, because as you become kinder to yourself and you learn to sit with yourself and you learn to ride this journey that is life with all the funky waves and the fun waves, you're able to navigate all other things with more compassion and grace. And so, and whether you come to me for self-compassion because you want to, you know, figure out how to lose weight or how to meditate or how to not be stressed at work, the angle is not the outcome, but the angle is how do we help you sit with yourself in that situation so that you can move forward towards any goal that you want to bring to yourself.
Yeah. I love that. You said a couple of things there that are like total quotes. I think you need to go back and like listen to yourself again and do some Insta quotes to post tomorrow. Yeah, no, you said some really beautiful things there. And it's so necessary. I mean, this is one of those things again that when you hear, oh, be more compassionate towards yourself, it can like, you know, go in and out the other. And it's pivotal. It's at the core of how you treat yourself, of how you care for yourself. And the more we take care of ourselves with that love and that compassion and that tenderness, the more we can give to others. Everybody benefits from how, you know, we really love ourselves up. And part of that is sitting with with those feelings, and the tough ones and the good ones too. Like, how about celebrating ourselves? Like,
people don't do it.
Are we the
people
last
don't
ones
celebrate themselves?
Yeah, and everybody's like, oh my God, you did this so great, and you're like, what do you mean?
Yeah, you go into this like, I don't know, whatever, don't talk to me.
That's part of self-compassion too, right?
Yeah, I would say, I mean, this is probably not a real statistic, but I would say 90% of my clients, but I would say like maybe one or two of my clients know how to celebrate themselves. I've actually had to hand out homework to clients and be like, how do you celebrate yourself when you do well? Like, how do you treat yourself, girl? Yeah. And they're like, I don't know. And so then I have to give them homework. And it's not just going to the spa or getting some kind of healing work done, but sometimes it's like, hey, if it's a ritual where you put your hands on your shoulders and you go, dang girl, I did a good job, then that's step one. That's like one way to celebrate your body, right? You know, actual connection with your body and saying, hey girl, you did good. Thank you.
You did good. Good job. Good job,
like,
baby.
People don't even think of that, like connecting to your body and saying, hey, I did good job, you know? And so people have difficulties connecting with themselves.
Yeah.
We gotta treat yourself right.
Treat yourself, because that's like the flip side of, I mean, not the flip side, but that's another just that duality of how you care for yourself during the tough times and how you friggin' like celebrate yourself during all the amazing things that you do and you know, on an everyday basis. So
yes, Jess, treat yourself with more compassion. Hands up. Yes.
So I want to say hi to a few people that joined us. I know I saw Natalie, one of our other coaches.
Natalie!
I saw Enrique. I see Seb joining right now. Hello, Seb. Hello, sir. So Ilona, anything else that you want to add before we start wrapping up?
No, I just obviously thank you and all the coaches and being part of this experience. I really love seeing how people are engaging. I really want to recommend that everyone go to all of the coaches pages, go to your Insta stories, go to the, you know, engage. Because, you know, coaching is still like an evolving field, and you might not know how this can benefit you. And it's really exciting to think that we're giving you all this gratis for free.
Yeah.
And we're so excited to be of service. Like, I cannot tell you how much fun I had putting my Insta stories together so that people can learn to be self-compassionate. And I know every single one of our coaches are ready to share their love to you too.
I love that. I love that. And then just as a quick note, we do have on my website, which you can find in the link in my bio, there's a button that's going to take you to our 12 days of coaching page, which we have the pictures for all the coaches linked to their Instagram, so you can check them out. Of course, you're on Instagram here, but if you're ever outside watching this, you can check that out. And then we're going to have replays of all of the live sessions. Notification now. So we're gonna have replays. So we already have day 1 and day 2 up on the site. They're on YouTube as well. And then of course we're gonna upload day 3 so that we can, you know, have everything all there on demand, and you can watch all the sessions in case you missed them. All right, everybody. Thank you so much for joining us. Thank you to Ilona for being so amazing and putting such a thoughtful self-compassion coaching, Insta-coaching experience together for all of us today. Really appreciate it.
My
and
pleasure,
guys,
everybody.
We're gonna be back here tomorrow on day 4 with Dr. Michelle Finan. She's talking all about attracting love, which is such a juicy, beautiful topic. I'm excited to chat with her. So make sure you check in tomorrow to see her post and interact with us, ask us questions, get your coaching on, and we'll see you tomorrow. Big kiss. Mwah. Adios, everyone.
Ciao.
Bye.